Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. Kabul says at least 8 Afghan soldiers have been killed in clashes with the Taliban in northern Balk province. The district governor said the clashes erupted after Taliban fighters attacked a security outpost. In a statement, the Taliban claimed the responsibility for the attack, saying they also destroyed 2 armored vehicles. Meanwhile, Ankara says the foreign ministers of Afghanistan, Pakistan and Turkey will hold talks in Istanbul on Friday. In a statement, Turkey's foreign ministry said the three-way meeting would cover recent developments. Meanwhile, the United Nations says it will ramp up efforts for a just and durable peace in Afghanistan. This comes after a wider Afghan peace conference was postponed because the Taliban said they would not participate. At least 4 Syrian soldiers have been wounded in Israeli airstrikes on Syrian military targets near the capital Damascus. Syrian army said the strikes also caused material damage, while most of the missiles were intercepted by its air defenses. Meanwhile, Israeli army said it attacked Syrian missile launcher and air defense systems after a missile attack near its Dimona nuclear reactor. India has recorded the world's highest single-day spike in COVID-19 cases with more than 314,000 infections. The country has also registered its record 2,104 fatalities in the past 24 hours. Pakistan has reported over 5,800 cases and 98 deaths overnight as the toll approaches 16,700. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3 million lives and infected over 143 million people so far. And in football, Borussia Dortmund beat Union Berlin 2-0 to keep their hopes alive for next season's Champions League. Marco Reus and Rafael Guerreiro scored 1 goal each to seal the win for Dortmund. Dortmund are in 5th place with 52 points, 4 behind 4th place Eintracht Frankfurt. Well, these were the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. Start from Afghanistan. Kabul says at least 8 Afghan soldiers have been killed in clashes with the Taliban in northern Balk province. A local official said the Taliban attacked a security outpost in Balk district of the province. The district governor said the Army Special Forces launched an operation in this area. He said the forces rescued 6 other soldiers during the operation. In a statement, the Taliban claimed the responsibility for the attack, saying they also destroyed 2 armored vehicles. Meanwhile, the Afghan army says it has killed 7 Taliban and injured 8 others in an airstrike in the Zarai district of Balk. In a statement, the army said Taliban's weapons and equipment were also destroyed in the raid. Now, Ankara says the foreign ministers of Afghanistan, Pakistan and Turkey will hold talks in Istanbul on Friday. This comes after a wider Afghan peace conference was postponed because the Taliban said they would not participate. In a statement, Turkey's foreign ministry said the three-way meeting would cover recent developments. It said the meeting would cover the Afghan peace process, cooperation in security, energy connectivity and irregular migration. Meanwhile, the United Nations says it will ramp up efforts for a just and durable peace in Afghanistan. In a tweet, the UN mission said the delay in the Istanbul Peace Conference provides an opportunity to work on the Doha talks. Moving on now, at least 4 Syrian soldiers have been wounded in Israeli airstrikes in the Syrian military targets near the capital Damascus. The Syrian army said the strikes also caused material damage, while most of the missiles were intercepted by its air defenses. Earlier, the Israeli army said it hit a Syrian missile launcher and air defense systems after a missile attack near its Dimona nuclear reactor. An Israeli military spokesperson said the Syrian missile was fired at Israeli aircraft but overshot its target and landed in the Dimona area. The explosion near Tel Aviv's secretive nuclear facility also triggered warning sirens. Meanwhile, the UN's nuclear watchdog says Iran has installed extra advanced centrifuges at its underground facility. This comes as world powers are engaged in talks in Vienna to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. In a report, the International Atomic Energy Agency verified 8 cascades of 2 different classes of centrifuges at the Natanz plant. Earlier, the European parties noted progress in the first 2 rounds of the talks but warned of major hurdles. The diplomats also condemned escalatory measures by an actor that could jeopardize the progress. Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps released drone footage of the U.S. aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf. Now, the Arab coalition in Yemen says it has intercepted and downed an explosive-laden Houthi drone over southern Saudi Arabia. In a statement, Saudi state media said the drone fired towards Khamis Mushaid. Meanwhile, Houthis claim they attacked King Khalid Air Base in Khamis Mushaid. A spokesperson for Yemeni rebels said the drone hit an important military site accurately. The Houthis have kept up regular cross-border attacks on Saudi Arabia and a ground offensive in Yemen's Marib region. Earlier, U.S. envoy to Yemen said the battle for gas-rich Marib has the biggest threat to peace efforts. Now, India has recorded the world's highest single-day spike in COVID-19 cases with more than 314,000 infections. The country has also registered its record 2,104 fatalities in the past 24 hours. While globally, the virus has claimed more than 3 million lives and infected over 143 million people. More on the coronavirus in this report.
Amid the shortages and the adverse effects of vaccines, now bogus doses seem to be a new problem. U.S. drug maker Pfizer confirms that suspect doses of its vaccine that were seized in Mexico and Poland were fake. Reports say the doses were going for as much as $1,000 a shot. Meanwhile, the U.S. Drug Regulatory Authority has slammed unsanitary conditions at a Johnson & Johnson's vaccine production plant. The U.S. has also added at least 116 countries to its Level 4 Do Not Travel Advisory list, citing very high COVID-19 cases. Down south, as Argentina crosses 60,000 COVID-19 deaths, authorities say the country is facing its worst moment of the pandemic.
Argentina is going through the worst moment of the pandemic. Since the start of the pandemic, since March 3rd of last year, this is the riskiest time because even though we have a strong health system, even though we have health workers that are vaccinated, we have an increase in the number of cases. That threatens to overwhelm the health sector. And we have concerning strains circulating that raise the risk of infection and fatalities.
International medical charity Doctors Without Borders has urged rich countries to stop blocking a patent waiver plan that could boost global vaccine production. This comes as India plunges into a tragedy of unprecedented proportions, with a staggering positivity rate of over 32%. A number of charities are helping the country's COVID-19 stricken population, which is facing a crisis of food scarcity as many cities remain under lockdown.
The biggest problem people are facing this year is that the family members in a house are testing positive of COVID-19. So I believe it is the responsibility of Gurudwara's management committee to provide free food to positive patients and families who cannot cook food at their homes. The free meal services at the shrine are going on, but this is a separate food for the patients only.
Meanwhile, Greece plans to start the rollout of Johnson & Johnson's vaccine on the 5th of May after EU's drug regulator backed its use.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 98 more people have lost their lives to COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry says the countrywide death tally is now approaching 16,700. The ministry said more than 5,800 people tested positive for the virus overnight. It said the positivity rate is 10.16%. The caseload has crossed 778,000, out of which more than 676,000 people have recovered. Officials say there are nearly 85,000 active cases in the country. while more than 5,400 of them are critical. Now, in Russia, police have detained over 1,700 people as supporters of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny protested over his failing health in jail. Earlier, the protesters, defying warnings, marched through dozens of cities amid massive police presence.
Protesters in central Moscow demanded authorities free Navalny and let the doctors see him. Critic's wife, Yulia Navalnya, also joined the rally in the capital, where demonstrators chanted her name. Russians in France rallied in front of the Paris City Hall, calling for Navalny's immediate release. In the UK, hundreds gathered outside the Russian embassy in London to express support for the jailed leader. Meanwhile, the State Department said U.S. and Russian officials discussed Washington's sanctions over the poisoning of Navalny. In a briefing, spokesperson Ned Price said discussions over Russia's response to the curbs will continue in the coming days.
Moving on, our Turkish state media says Washington has formally removed Ankara off its F-35 fighter jet program. It says the US and 8 other countries have abolished the 2006 deal regarding the F-35 program. The media said the 9 have signed a new memorandum that has excluded Turkey. Turkey is one of the main suppliers of the warplane's parts. Pentagon spokesperson Jessica R. Maxwell said US position has not changed. She said the US continues to move forward with the process of formally removing Turkey from F-35 partnership as announced in 2019. Washington had threatened Ankara with expulsion if it did not reverse its purchase of the Russian S-400 missile defense system. Now, the US House of Representatives has passed a bill preventing any president from imposing travel bans based on religion. The legislation, also known as the No Ban Act, comes in response to former President Donald Trump's controversial Muslim ban. Democratic Representative Judy Cho presented the bill in the House. The bill cleared the House floor by 218 to 208 vote and was supported by only one Republican. The legislation will now move to the Senate for approval. Civil rights advocacy groups have welcomed the move as a major step forward and urged the Senate to support it. Now, Pakistan's President Dr. Arif Alvi says anti-national elements want to destroy peace in the country. In a message, Alvi strongly condemned yesterday's Quetta blast, in which 5 people lost their lives. 11 others were injured in the blast that took place in the parking lot of a luxury hotel. Prime Minister Imran Khan also expressed grief over the terrorist attack. In a tweet, he said the nation has made great sacrifices in defeating terrorism and will not allow this scourge to rise again. The Prime Minister said Pakistan remains alert to all internal and external threats. China said it strongly condemns this terrorist attack, adding there were no Chinese delegation present at the hotel. A banned terrorist group, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, has claimed responsibility for the blast. Now, the United States says it has seen no evidence of a withdrawal of Eritrean troops from Ethiopia's Tigray region. Earlier, Eritrea had given assurances that they would pull out their forces from the region. At a press briefing, State Department spokesperson Ned Price urged an immediate and full withdrawal of Eritrean troops. Price said Washington believes the withdrawal is critical to restoring peace and security in the war-torn region. Talking about Chad, he said the U.S. is gravely concerned over violence following the death of President Idris Deby. The spokesperson said the U.S. wants to see a peaceful transition of power to a civilian-led government. He noted Washington would be concerned by anything that stands in the way of a democratic transition of power in Chad. In the U.S. state of North Carolina, police shot dead a black man in his car while serving him with a search warrant. State officials say they have opened an investigation into the incident. Protesters took to the streets following the shooting in Elizabeth City near North Carolina's coastal border with Virginia. At a news conference, Pasquotank County Sheriff Tommy Wooten said the officer who fired the gun has been placed on administrative leave. This comes a day after former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's conviction in the George Floyd murder trial. More news coming up after a short break. Stay with us. Back now, Indonesian Navy says it has not detected any signs of the submarine that went missing yesterday with 53 crew on board. However, the Navy spokesperson said the sailors aboard the submarine have enough oxygen to last until Saturday. Indonesia's 44-year-old submarine went missing while conducting a torpedo drill north of the island of Bali. The spokesperson said the vessel was in good condition and battle-ready. He added an aerial search found an oil spill near the submarine's dive location, but the data is still insufficient. Neighbouring countries, Singapore and Malaysia, have deployed vessels and crews to aid in the search for the submarine. The heads of state of over 40 countries are participating in the Earth Day summit today. Hosted by US President Joe Biden, the virtual event aims to discuss ways to tackle climate change.
The two-day Earth Summit aims to revitalize climate action ahead of the COP26 gathering planned for Glasgow, Scotland in November. It also aims to revive the 2015 Paris Climate Accord. U.S. President Joe Biden is also expected to unveil a target to cut emissions by roughly 50% by 2030 from 2005 levels. President Vladimir Putin has expressed resolve for Russian greenhouse gas emissions to be lower than the EU by 2030. Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison is likely to share his $436.5 million plan to co-fund research and pilot projects in green technologies. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will urge countries to match the UK's target to deliver net zero carbon emissions by the middle of the century to control global warming. World leaders are expected to keep twisting Brazil's arm to crack down on deforestation in the Amazon region.
EU's observation service says 2020 was Europe's hottest year on record. Scientists issued a stark reminder about the devastating impacts of climate change ahead of the US-led Earth Day summit. They say it was the hottest winter at 3.4 degrees Celsius above the average temperature seen during 1981 to 2020. Meanwhile, the Arctic suffered a summer of extreme wildfires, partly due to low snow cover. The temperature in Arctic Siberia last year broke records by a large margin at 4.3 degrees Celsius above the average. As per the World Meteorological Organization, 2020 was also one of the planet's 3 hottest years on record. As more and more countries join the push towards green energy production, one of the world's largest solar hybrid projects is nearing completion in Thailand.
After years of criticism for reliance on fossil fuels, Thailand is exploring renewable energy production. In the country's northeastern province, close to 145,000 solar panels are being set up on the surface of the water in Sirindhorn Dam. The soon-to-be-completed 7 solar farms cover some 300 acres of water area.
Now, our current progress of the project is at 90% completion. The project area is divided into 7 platforms of floating solar cell panels. Now we've installed 5.5 platforms. There are still 1.5 platforms to work on, which we expect to complete by the end of April. And we think we will be ready to distribute electricity with this by the end of June 2021.
The state-run Electricity Generation Authority is touting the pilot project as one of the world's largest hybrid hydro-solar power ventures. Authorities are aiming to complete the project in June.
In terms of power generation, there are limitations when it comes to solar power. So we eliminated these limitations by continuously generating power via a hybrid system. Aside from that, we utilize everything we have here to make the best use of each component. We have space on the water surface, we have a hydropower station with a high voltage power transmission system. And with that combination, it will make the cost of power generation per unit lower.
According to the latest power development plan, Thailand is aiming to draw 35% of its energy from non-fossil fuel sources by 2037. State authorities plan to replicate the pilot project at 8 more dams over the next 16 years.
Now, NASA says its Perseverance rover has extracted the first sample of oxygen from Mars. The 6-wheeled robot converted a sample of the planet's carbon dioxide into oxygen through an instrument aboard the rover. NASA says the conversion can open up possibilities for further experimentation towards the goal of human life on Mars. In a press release, it termed the conversion quite modest at 5 grams, equivalent to 10 minutes of breathable oxygen. According to NASA, the red planet's atmosphere comprises 96% carbon dioxide. Now in Hong Kong, a professor has developed a program using role-playing robots to help children with autism improve their social skills. The initiative has been adopted by other non-profit groups and schools. The Robot for Autism behavioral intervention program is designed for people with autism between the ages of 3 and 18. It aims to help them be more social and to resolve issues such as conflicts and bullying. More than 1,200 children have been using the program since its launch in 2015.
It's Bean. He finished my snacks.
These individuals with the autism, they have low motivation interacting with the human beings. And also they have the hypersensitivities to the sensation around the world. For example, the human facial expressions or the human voices. So we use the social robots to teach them the social skills in order to reduce their anxiety.
The robots engage the children with the role-playing and verbal interaction. A typical class involves 2 small robots acting out social scenarios, helping the children see the difference between appropriate and unacceptable behavior, such as tantrums or screaming.
She is now more active, such as asking people what their names are and who they are. She has started to have some degree of social life, and also her speaking skills have improved from saying single words to using vocabulary and forming sentences. The credit goes to them, the robots, and the team.
More than 20 non-profit groups financed by governments as well as public schools in Hong Kong and Macau have adopted the program since 2016. In the long term, Catherine so hopes her program can fight the exclusion of people with autism. Now, a new Dutch research into the movement of dinosaurs has revealed that keeping up with the Dinosaurs Rex was not difficult. The study says that, unlike the popular movie Incarnations, the giant meat-eating beast most likely ambled around at human walking speed. Details in this report.
A latest Dutch research indicates that the idea of time traveling back to the era of the Tyrannosaurus Rex may not be that bad. Through a computer, reconstructions of muscles and ligaments on a 3-dimensional model of Trix, a female T-Rex skeleton, Dutch researcher Pasha van Bijlert has concluded a shocking yet relieving finding that the dinosaur's preferred speed was most likely 4.61 kilometers per hour. It is close to the walking speed of humans and horses. Bijlert and his co-researchers say the T-Rex's huge tail played an important part in its locomotion.
We've just published a paper in which we estimate Trix's preferred walking speed. We did this based on a reconstruction of the tail, and you just have to look at the tail to understand how important it is for its walking. It's more than half of its length. The walking of dinosaurs was unique because of its tail. There's no animal alive that uses the tail in the same way.
By calculating the natural frequency of the dinosaur's tail, the researchers were able to conclude its step rhythm and from that, its walking speed. However, it is too soon to assume that a human could have outrun a T-Rex. Researchers say they are still exploring its possible top speeds.
So the entire tail, by our reconstruction, almost 1,000 kilos, was really just a mass supported by a rubber band. And with every step, it would slightly bounce up and down. But you can see that if I choose the wrong rhythm, it costs a lot of effort for very little result. Whereas if I choose the correct rhythm, I suddenly get a lot of movement for very little effort. That's resonance. So, if T-Rex chooses the correct step frequency, the tail movements will be maximal. This maximizes energy storage and therefore walking efficiency.
Meanwhile, scientists have discovered the remains of a previously unknown species of dinosaurs in the world's driest desert, Parshid Atacama, located in Chile. The plant-eating dinosaur lived millions of years ago among the lush greenery in what is now a moonscape of rock and sand.
Now, European stocks are trading higher, lifted by a strong start to earnings seasons, with the European Central Bank expected to keep policy intact. The CAC 40 in Paris is leading the gains, rising over 0.5%. The Pan-European Stock 600, Frankfurt's DAX and Italy's FTSE MIB have also added close to 0.5%. London's FTSE has edged up marginally as well. Earlier, most Asian markets gained, with the exception of mainland Chinese shares. And now let's have a look at how the weather is doing around the world. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.